A lot of us have been watching too many David Goggins videos.
Sometimes you gotta fight pain with pain. Stay hard.
And a lot of us want to run some kind of crazy ultra marathon to lose weight and keep it off forever. However, before you put on your running shoes, I think there are some key things that you should know about losing weight. So, to better understand weight loss, we need to talk about calories. So we have calories in and we've got calories out. So calories in is basically anything you consume. So foods and beverages, right? And calories out is just basically going to be your activity level. So think about walking, cycling, running, and going to the gym, but also just staying alive because your organs, your brain, everything needs energy, hence calories, in order to function properly. So that being said, it's basically a sum between calories in, calories out, and that's going to give you a grand total. And that total is going to put you in either one of these three categories. Category number one is going to be a calorie surplus. Just think of some imaginary middle line and then being above that line. So you're eating more than you're burning off. This causes you to gain weight. And if you want to gain muscle, this is the category that you want to find yourself in. Then the second category would actually be that middle line. This is where you just eat a certain amount of calories and you burn a certain amount of calories, and they kind of balance each other out. So you're not going to gain weight, but you're also not going to lose weight. However, in practice, it is very hard to, stay exactly the same because you can't measure every individual calorie accurately. So there's just going to be, ups and downs. But basically, if you're close to that line, you're just going to kind of maintain the same weight that you already have. However, and most importantly, if you want fat loss, you need to be in a calorie deficit. In here, you are eating less than you are burning. So basically, you want to maximize or actually minimize what you're eating. So maximize cutting and losing calories by your nutrition while also increasing the amount of calories you burn off during activity. However, it is very important to know that if you're in this deficit, your energy, your strength, and a whole lot of other things will go down. So it will start pretty doable if you're just, in a slight deficit. However, if you are pushing it too far, it can absolutely mess with your sleep, with your libido, with your energy, with your strength, and it just gets to a point where you just can't stop thinking about food, and you do not want that. So in order to do this right, which a lot of people do wrong because they just think, okay, I'm just gonna live off of salads. I'm just gonna make some lettuce and that's all I'm eating. That is just a very poor technique because sooner or later, I'll give it a week max, you're just gonna overeat on the weekend. You're gonna be like, oh man, I tortured myself. I deserved this. I'm just not going to track this just one day. And before you know it, that one day has kind of eliminated all of the progress that you made so far. So that is a very bad technique. So this is what you want to do. You want to, of course, maximize the activity, but you also want to, of course, eat as little as possible. But I'm going to tell you right now that just increasing your activity like endlessly,
stay hard,
is not gonna work. There's only so much you can do in a day. Your energy levels are already gonna be lower. And even then, even if you were still eating in maintenance, there's only so much you can run every day, right? It's gonna end eventually. Your legs are gonna give up. You're gonna be too tired.
keep talking.
That is not a really good, reliable way to lose the weight. Of course, by any means, do incorporate it into your lifestyle. go on like a daily walk, go cycling. Maybe in the meantime, you can listen to music, audiobook, podcast, whatever you want, so you can still be productive. However, I would not count on something extreme, right? Okay, this weekend I'm gonna do this ultra marathon and this is what I'm gonna rely on. No, you don't need something big, you don't need something grand.
Being a warrior takes a whole different mindset.
You just need a routine that works, that just gets a little bit more calories in the activity range. But the real gold here is gonna be your nutrition, because you can do all the cardio in the world that you want to. However, if you just drink a whole can of olive oil, yeah, you're still gonna be in a calorie surplus. So if your nutrition is not in check, you're just gonna spin your wheels and you're just gonna stay the same, and even worse, you might even be worse off than you started, and that is not something you want. So, what is going to be the technique? Of course, focus on nutrition and only do activity as like a extra benefit, couple of 100 calories extra per day. That's already going to put you in the sweet spot. But then again, nutrition is key. And here are some very valuable ways to actually maximize the most out of your nutrition. For starters, we need to understand macros. So we got our proteins, we got our carbs, and we got our fats. We need all three of them. However, there's no exact number of how much or what percentage you need to allocate to each. However, always start with protein. Think about, chicken breast, think about turkey, think about some types of fish. Those are gonna keep you full longer and also gonna provide you with protein, obviously, which is good for both protein intake for muscle growth, but also you don't want to lose the muscle that you already have during a calorie deficit. So protein really helps with that. So first of all, it's gonna, of course, keep your muscles safe and prevent any muscle loss, but it's also gonna keep you full longer, and that's exactly what you want during fat loss, because it's gonna be way harder to eat something that's not gonna fill you up. Think of like a donut or some kind of McDonald's. It's gonna be very high in calories. So you think, okay, it's gonna fill me up, but actually it does not. You would be much better off with some alternatives. So like I said, chicken breast would fill you up way more with less calories, way more protein, and it's just overall gonna make you feel better, much better for your body, etc. Then we have the carbs, and basically that's gonna be your bread, your rice, your pastas, whatever. Those are gonna fuel your body with energy. Now, of course, they are a bit easier to overeat, and of course, there's so much information about that between whole grain and which times and the glycemic index, but we're not gonna go into detail into that right now. We're gonna keep it simple. And then we have our fats. And the fats they're not bad. Your body needs healthy fats, and they're bad fats and they're good fats, but all you need to know is your body does need fats to function properly. Otherwise, you're gonna have hormonal imbalances, also not something you want. So do still cook with some olive oil. Don't completely avoid fats altogether. However, I will say limit them. Definitely limit them quite a bit, because even though olive oil and nuts and cheese, they're not bad foods. However, they're just gonna be way more calorie dense, and that's not something you want during a calorie deficit. So you need to look out for that, and at the same time, you need to pick foods that will fill you up at the most. So think about it. Maybe a donut that is like 500 calories. It's easy to overeat. You can have a second one without even thinking twice, right? You won't even be remotely full. However, trust me, if you were to eat in one sitting 500 grams of chicken, you're gonna be full. You're not gonna want another bite, trust me. So those are very good choices that you can make to make it easier for yourself. Because trust me, if your only strategy is gonna be eating lettuce, yes, it's low in calories, so technically you could eat a whole mountain of them and technically, be very well off on the calorie department. It's still not gonna fill you up. You're just not gonna feel satisfied. You're gonna be hungry, you're gonna have cravings, and that's not something you want. So, for me, I'm gonna save you a whole lot of research and some kind of rabbit hole that leads into the glycemic index and what foods are gonna fill you up the most. I would really say, and I think in the next video, I will give you a recipe. For me, what works the best is chicken with potatoes. And honestly, I don't really like baked potatoes, but if you have an air fryer, if you got an oven, or even a pan, you can make some really great potatoes that fill you up, that don't make you hate your daily life because you're not eating something that makes you feel miserable or wish you could eat something else. I actually really enjoy it from day to day. I just eat it 3 times per day now. And yeah, it works wonders. Before that, I was eating rice, and there's nothing wrong with rice itself. However, I noticed after switching to potatoes, man, it's just a game changer. So if you are serious about losing weight, I would absolutely recommend you to check that out. Potatoes, chicken, add some vegetables, add some fiber, and man, you are gonna be so much better equipped to deal with this fat loss journey because you don't want to struggle every day. Because if you're eating something that you cannot maintain, you're going too low in the deficit, you're just constantly hungry, trust me, it's going to be a nightmare. You're not going to enjoy the process, that first of all. Second of all, you're going to have crazy cravings. So in the weekend, you might just destroy all of your progress, and it's just going to be miserable. So take it from me, rice is a very good option, but for me, what has helped me the most is by far the potatoes with chicken, and there's so many ways you can do it. I will definitely make a recipe and share it with you guys. But yeah, that is just my guide to fat loss. It works like a charm. It's gonna fill you up. It's gonna keep you satiated, and yeah, you can just customize it in any way you want, basically. So absolutely go check it out. I'll make the next video next week, and stay on the path, guys. Good luck.